You guys are laughing.
All right,
we are
all right,
live
all right,
now.
all right.
Okay, you want to start over?
Yes, I want to start it over.
Let's just kick it all off again. I'll act like I haven't said anything.
Let's go, baby. Pye Nation, we back.
Yes,
Part
we
two
are. Here we
of
are.
The bi-weekly. It's like you get 2 AMAs in one. Yo, we are live here on YouTube. Obviously, if you're in Telegram, you heard me loud and clear. But come join us. Jump in there. The link is in the pins. You can see myself joined by Bill Spada. Say hello.
Hello.
We got Eric Anderson joining us here shortly. And as we were talking, before we get into the question side of things, some of the questions that we've received over the last week or so, we talked a little bit about that tracking pixel, right? Last time we really talked about it, we said, it's coming through on the pipeline. It was sitting on Eric's desk. You guys had some feedback because, Bill, I think sometimes people forget, you have a huge marketing background. Mm-hmm. So you were looking at the tracking pixel, and there was a lot of pieces that on the UI side, on the the user interface that needed some cleaning up and some flow.
Yeah, so the key to the data pixel really being what we wanted it to be, or originally coming into focusing on the crypto market, focusing on, NFT market was a focus as well. Mm-hmm. Just really being a blockchain tracking pixel. Was something that you could do a lot of similar things that's already Web 2.0, which is great. A lot of times you just repackage what's happening is what we see a lot of people try to do. Yeah. But in this case, we wanted it to be crypto-centric. We want it to be more blockchain-driven. So a lot of those variables, metrics, pieces of it were not necessarily incorporated in the initial version, which is what we had started with. I know our developers. Now keep in mind, this is 100% being built in-house.
Gotcha.
This is not something that we've externally put out there. And a lot of people might go, well, wait a minute, why wasn't it, you scoped it that way, why wasn't it done that way? You do everything in phases, right? Things are done in phases. So we wanted to get essentially what is already been established out there in Web 2.0. We wanted it to at least meet those metrics and those standards, right? Then we start adding in all the pieces that make it unique, make it different, make it special. And what's really going to attract this mainstream group of people that are in the crypto space, that are in the blockchain world, that is what we've done. So in essence, we got our standard, the 2.0 standard, and now we're on to integrating and incorporating those other pieces. Those pieces are trackable. They are something we've tested to see that it works, and it is working. But a lot of times, disseminating that information, or I guess how you kind of carve it out and you cut out different pieces of it, the fragmentation of the data is something that we needed to make sure came out, made sense, and it was data that were metrics people would measure based on, measurables. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that we've got a bearded man who has now joined us.
Join us on stage.
Come right on in, Mr. Eric.
And no one said that this was a video.
Oh, I found out that but you know what? The live video always makes me feel more connected.
I have to agree.
It always feels like we're actually with them, standing there.
I agree.
Talking to them, that type of thing. So welcome, Eric.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate
Showing
it.
up today.
G has officially started off with one question so far. So
not really a question. We want to talk about the tracking.
You want to jump in with him on that?
Yeah. So we'll start there because I was telling Bill, it's like last time we talked. Tracking pixel was on your desk, and I know you had a lot of feedback for it, mainly on like the UX side of things and the dashboard, kind of like the flow of a user's interface. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, all the functionality is there, but really it's there for more of a highbrow person right now. We're working on generalizing it, making it more easy for the individual users, more intuitive, but that's really in the cleanup stages at this point.
Good deal.
All functionality is there. It's working great, and I personally can't wait to get it out there because I think it's a huge catalyst for Pye Lab and through the throughput also to Pye Swap as well. So.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree, and especially when talking with certain community members out there who are talking to projects. Raymond Roddy being one of them. He's got a couple projects that are like, if we could track the pre-sale metrics, this would be huge for him, right?
Huge.
So excited to be able to get that onto Pye Lab. Now, Bill was talking about, kind of the phases of, development, right? We had phase one, kind of putting it together for the Web 2, and then adding on those Web 3 pieces that really make it stand out and highlight, right? Talk to me, when we drop on PyLab, the tracking pixel, we've talked about dropping it in phases though. So when we drop here in the very soon moment, what does phase 2 look like after it comes out?
Phase 2 is going to be primarily focused on the reporting features, the reports that you can pull. All the data will be there, but we're putting together further reports that allow things to more easily be, again, ease to the user. Point for this, I want to report for this. I want to report for conversions. I want to report for
data.
engagement, and that type of stuff. So bringing in more reporting. The data itself is going to stay the same. It's just going to be more reporting features and reporting, aspects of the system for phase 2.
Metrics are a big thing.
They're huge.
And so the different metrics you can pull from the data is what is really going to be valuable to certain people. And different people have different channels of metrics that they really rely on, so to speak, to be able to be successful or optimize and do the things that they're trying to do. And if you go back to our projects and the things that we've done in the past, some of those things are going to be, a specific influencer. If we went and hired you, let's say, and you went out and you were doing something of influence and we paid you to do it, we'd pretty much want to know, specifically, okay, what did we get in terms of any traffic from that influence? Did we get any sort of people that came in and actually purchased, did a transaction and actually acquired Pye? Yep. Did anybody actually come in? How long were they on PySwap? How long were they on the site? Whatever the targeted site landing page would have been.
Their engagement, the flow.
Their engagement.
How did they get to point B from point A?
What page views did they have? Also, maybe some heat sensory that we're able to actually see kind of like where did they scroll, what did they do. Those behaviors are very, very integral part of some things that are very important to some and some other people that they just kind of stay at different levels, right? So if I go to that level and I'm looking at, heat data and I'm looking at, click data and scroll data, I'm trying to optimize my site. You might be the platform wanting to know, is there something that is potentially could be adjusted to make it even longer engagement or more engagement in clicks and things of that nature, or a conversion event that is very important to either the platform or to the advertiser that's utilizing the platform. So there's a lot of those little pieces. The initial one will bring in pretty much all the standard stuff, all the standard metrics, all the standard things that you would use to stay on the first level or two. But then obviously, as he's talking about phase 2, phase 3, and then some, is we really want to be able to put an analytics platform out with the same, drop downs and next stages and levels like Google Analytics has.
Sure.
But be able to do that with all the pieces that are required to do that. And so it's all a lot of, reporting and database pulls and things of that nature, but then displaying them properly and making sure that we have charting and things that people can use to see kind of trends and what's going on with their pixel data that they're tracking.
Yeah, and not just used, but also customized to their likings.
And save those features and functions so that when they're using it, they can easily go back in. And because a lot of what we're seeing with Web3 is a lot of these platforms, it doesn't necessarily always keep the experience for the user, the person who's connected to it. And that's what we're really planning to make sure that you're using it today for some purpose. A week from now, those same exact metrics that you've already kind of preset as the things that you want to be able to see, that they still exist for you. You're not starting over every time you use it.
Gotcha. So in phase 2, I know we've talked about, bringing, do we have a name yet? Let me start there. Do we have a name yet? Have we branded? I'm voting the Pixie still, but have you guys come up with any sort of name? Because I hate to just keep saying tracking pixel, but
it's not going to be the Pixie.
It won't be the Pixie. Fine.
No, it needs to be taken serious. It's very much a mainstream product that, again, I've said this many, many other times, that its purpose isn't only going to be for the obvious. I mean, there's a lot of things outside of swaps and wallet activities and things like that are conversion events, but there's a lot more that the blockchain itself is going to be able to be tracked, and having the ability to go through and see all that interaction with a blockchain within a Web 2.0 website, and being able to have a dApp that tells you this stuff so you can actually track to see if you're successful is it's far greater than that. So we're looking to do a lot of things with it as we go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Cool deal. Now, before I move into a couple, the questions that we received back, I know Eric wanted to talk a little bit about the order book, because that's kind of the roadmap pieces of it all, is that tracking pixel, getting it onto Pye Lab, launching phase one of it, then really pushing and deploying out the order book onto PySwap. So what did you want to add on there before I get into my questions, Eric?
Sure. The order book obviously is another big project, really, that we're looking forward to pushing. Our challenges are, the steps that our goals, our steps to move forward with that are, we want to make sure that the gas on it is inexpensive, so it doesn't cost people in order to post their tokens for sale, or to post a buy order or a sell order, either one. So gas is foremost in our thinking. We are at this point looking to follow more of a signed entry instead of an actual on-chain gas event.
And just to clarify, so those of you that may not know what he's exactly referencing, I think just to clarify so that we're on the same page, so putting or submitting a buy or a sell on the order book, whether it's on the buy side, sell side, we're talking about a sign as opposed to processing actual gas.
That's correct.
Is
yeah.
what I just want to make sure they understand.
Yeah, think OpenSea.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And the way that you
Kinda
buy
like
and sell on OpenSea.
Well, they do a bidding model, right? If you're buying specifically direct to somebody's buying, I've listed this item for X, there's still gas involved.
Yeah.
I think what you think of OpenSea is you're thinking more so if you're going to be essentially bidding or offering somebody. But then in this case, the offers will be set to obviously accept, because there's a for sale that's within the same price that you're offering. So it's kind of like a buy offer type situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're listing your order. There's the order book. You're putting in an order to buy at a certain rate or sell at a certain rate, and to keep track of those without costing, gas to the end user.
Right.
Because we have to have a balance between decentralization and ease of use, as well as gas fees themselves. So we want to keep the decentralization. We don't want this to be a centralized process. We want to keep it completely decentralized for the end user.
Right.
But we also don't want people having to spend gas every time that they're putting a buy order or a sell order out there for the other people. So
Exactly.
that's what we're working through right now, and we do have some great ideas for that, and we're.
But I just want to make sure we clarify a lot of people know OpenSea, when you go to list something for sale, there is fees involved in that. It's when you offer on OpenSea, there's just a signing situation. It doesn't touch any of your ETH or anything that you're doing. In this case, think of that same process when you're making an offer. Think of that same process on both the buy and the sell side. So when you're making an offer, it's like you're making an offer to sell or you're making an offer to buy.
Correct.
It's going to be considered the same kind of actionable that's going to take place, and both of which will be a signing event versus
a gas fee
accruing
event.
any gas fees, right? And by the way, that's a big deal.
That is big.
That's a big deal.
Are there any other DEXs out there that do something similar? Or is that kind of
I'm
first
not aware
on
of
chain?
any.
To be very honest, I don't really go down the road of diagnosing too much, because I know the way we want to do it is the way that the here and now is what we're working with, and really the end user is what we care about most. So to make it equitable and make it work for everybody, our goal is to make sure that it's all about the user. It's all about focusing on what's ease of use. I mean, we've seen all the trauma and all the issues that people deal with when it comes to Ethereum. We've seen other issues when it comes to the BNB side. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take all the known issues we've experienced over the years and try to eliminate those regardless of what else is out there. There always is going to be somebody doing something, right? And there's a chance that something like that is similarly out there. But I want to make sure that we're clear. Our focus is not to the nickel and diming side of this platform. This platform is built for peer-to-peer to truly execute and be able to have the opportunity to work with amongst each other and have their order book that is really driven by a community. And I think it makes it special. What makes Pye Book special, I guess we call it Pye Book. To make Pye Book special, that makes it any different than anything else. I'm aware that there are other order book-like type platforms that are out there. The difference between us and them, I know a lot of people would probably wonder, well, what's going to make Pye Book special? Why does it matter? And for me, at least, I think there's two big pieces to that. We are going to do absolutely our every pair, our goal, and this is most likely not going to be automated, even though I'd like it to be automated. Again, because I want to be away from anything centralized, any actions, things that take place on that platform that don't need to be centralized. And one thing we are looking at doing is auto listing. So back to why would we auto list? Because if a project or a pair exists out there on CMC or CG and it is actually tracked by CMC and CG, our goal would be to allow our Pye Book system to initially or immediately provide that pair opportunity for a book.
Okay.
So a book gets created based on pairs within CG or CMC. I'm not quite sure. We can only do one of them. I'm not quite sure which one if we're going to do both. I know we're talking through that, but we might have to just focus on CMC or CG. They're very similar.
Yeah.
If somebody gets listed on CG, they pretty much get listed on CMC. So we should always pretty much incorporate all those pairs. But a lot of these systems are manually driven, and that's one of my hopes that's going to differentiate us, is that there will always be a home necessarily. If the project's relevant and there's stuff going on with it, there will be a home on Pye Book for it.
Okay.
The second thing that's going to make us and differentiate us, I guess you could say, is really the gateway. The onboard, offboard gateway is going to be critical. It will be like nothing else that's out there. There will not be a book or a Pye Book clone that's out there or something like it that's going to offer onboard and offboard that Pye Book will offer. I think that's going to be probably the biggest differentiator, right?
It is, and it's one of the biggest challenges that people have, how do I get money in? How do I get money out? What does it look like?
And obviously we're seeing a lot of mixed things out there, because what I mean by mixed things is what we're planning to do with the gateway, right? The onboard offboard gateway. It really is so unique. Wouldn't you agree?
It is.
It is so unique that it's almost, and I hate to say this, but it's probably not something that really has any reach by anything at this point that we're familiar with, at least, that would really, I guess, get in the way of it. And I guess I'm talking and trying to make sure that I don't reveal what it is, but at the same time, tell you how excited we are about it. But it is something that, being able to get money out to a bank account or in from a bank account, the way that this is going to work is genuinely going to turn P2P to a whole nother level, which is very exciting. There's nothing else out there like it. There's a few people that know pretty much about it. They've actually spoken to projects. I mean, there are people that are talking to other projects and other people out there in the space, and there's a lot of people banging down the door right now saying, hey, as soon as you've got it, let us know because we'll be using it. Which is what's going to make Pye Book so fun, is where, people are going to see there is what seems to be a group of people, and not just a group of people, but a pretty nice little party that's starting. Posse, party, squad, whatever you want to call it, that's coming together, that is very much aware of what this is going to look like and are really standing on the sidelines waiting for it.
Awesome. Well, one of the questions I want to follow up with on the order book, coming in from the audience, they're understanding that there is no liquidity pool on a order book exchange. So if there are no buyers, does that mean that there is no way to sell, right? So if that's the case with the order book, as we launch that out, what are the go-to market strategies to bring in not only Pye and new Pye holders and investors, but also you talked about picking up all these new pairs, right? So what is the plan going to market with this order book concept?
Well, I mean, go to market for us is going to be, for me at least, I think we have to focus on a lot of DEXs right now, even though they're decentralized, especially when you have the ability to run bots and you have the ability to run. This eliminates the whole bot concept, right? This takes away the ability to manipulate, the ability to run artificial traffic and artificial buys and sells, and really, I guess, in essence, the biggest thing that has scammed crypto over the last 2 or 3 years, and that is people just running artificial stuff to get attention. And that's probably going to be one of the biggest things about why this marketplace is going to be so crucial and critical. One, it's the same way people are very familiar with buying and selling stocks today, right?
Yep.
There's buys orders, there's sell orders, right? So it's no different than a stock, right? If the stock is a dead stock and they're not doing anything with it, there's nobody really open orders to buy. And if there are open orders to buy, they might be really cheap. Same thing with sells. If people are looking to sell, they might have to lower their sell price, to match whatever someone's willing to pay for it. But again, the bigger, most critical piece to this is going to be us getting out there and talking through why the Pye holder is going to benefit from this platform and why this platform is truly the way, back to PySwap and Swap 2.0 and all that kind of stuff as we evolve through that. It was great. Timing was horrible, right? Timing was really, really bad. We got hacked. Then you go into the summertime, and all of a sudden Luna crashes, and then you got FTX blowing up. So all the things that we're coming to market with something at the same time. Everyone's going, holy cow, what's going on? And you see crypto volume drop 90%, 12-month period, and over the time we're trying to push out. Well, everything else is consolidating and contracting in a way. Yeah. So at this point, we've got PySwap and Swap 2.0. We need to continue to cater to that market, and we will. And that market will be available, and that market will continue to move forward. And so our goal is really to show how the Pye book is an authentic, real market that allows for and doesn't really breed any of those malicious things that people were doing or those inauthentic things that people did in the past. And I love telling that story because look what happened with FTX. Look what happens with all of these other groups that are out there. If you don't control your assets or you don't have those assets in a wallet that really you hold the keys to, essentially you don't really own them. And that's what we saw with FTX. That's what we've seen with a lot of these centralized exchanges. And then again, they're also charging 5% fees to swap your Ethereum to Bitcoin or Bitcoin to BNB or whatever. It's insane amount of money, right?
Now, let me ask you, will you be able to sell tokens still through Swap 2.0? Will there be almost like a Swap 2.0?
Swap 2.0 will, or continue on, I'll let you finish.
So are there going to be like Swap 2.0 liquidity pools to be, buying and selling in as well with the option of a order book? How's that look on
Are we talking about any crypto or are we talking about just Pye?
Start with Pye.
Well, at this point, our goal is to, at some point, put a liquidity pool back into PySwap and Swap 2.0. And the timing of that is just going to depend on how quickly we get the order book out, how quickly we get the chain ready to go. Now, is it going to wait until the chain? Probably not. But the goal is to, as quickly as possible, get those things out there. There is a other conversation that me and Eric have had with regard to the Pye book, that we think there's another project or two that have done something very similar, and we've seen the success of it, and we feel very confident that something like that, especially since we've got a blockchain that's going to be very dedicated to a specific area of the market, that's something that we feel is very possible. We just got to work through the thoughts of it. And if we do, just so you guys know kind of where we're at with this, I would say probably in the next 2 weeks, by the next AMA, we may be asking for feedback on that thought and that process, because it is something that I think would be very exciting for our project. I think it'd be very exciting for our holders, people that are looking for what's next and when and where and how and all those fun things in between. This is the next 30 to 60 days is going to be pretty much a whirlwind, I think, for how things evolve. And as people are seeing the bigger picture, as the bigger picture continues to unravel here, people will, I think, be very, very excited, and I think feel very grateful that this is the direction that we've gone, and we're taking the time to do it right, and we're doing it the way it should be done, or should have been done, as we've gone in the first place. And I mean, sometimes it takes time to evolve. It takes time to grow. It takes time to see, I think, naturally or organically where the market's moving and where things are happening, and what focus is happening. I mean, I hate to say this, there's just one great example is you see it all the time. One great example, and people that are on this may understand what I'm talking about, or maybe they won't. But over the last, 10, 15 years or so, we saw a huge run up in the value of sports cards, right? Huge run up. And then all of a sudden, in the last, year or so, 6 months to a year, the market has just crashed in sports cards, right? But all along, there's been other things that have kind of evolved in and out of it. And the people who were smart and were seeing and watching and making those adjustments and making those shifts, they're doing okay. The maxis that were out there just buying every last card they get their hands on, and they were going all in on it, putting every egg in one basket, they're sitting around today going, holy cow, I'm 90% down on my money and I don't know what to do. And that same thing is happening with crypto, and it evolves and it grows and it changes, and you just have to, see where attention is going, see where the people are going. And really it comes down to comfort. Comfort. Over the last 2 years, we've seen so many things that have blown up the market. People, there's a lot of big money that has lost everything. I mean, everything over the last 2 years. And I'm talking, institutions, I'm talking about big money, especially connected to a lot of these big debacles that happened in 2022. But as time goes on, you learn, how this space needs to evolve, and it's growing. And people that are thinking, well, crypto's dying. Crypto's not dying. No. Crypto's growing up. I mean, crypto's actually turning into probably a small little teenager at this point.
Would you say it's capitulating? Is that a good word to describe it?
No, not necessarily capitulating. I think it's just evolving. I mean, it's a good thing. Those of you that are sitting out there going, this sucks, or I'm down 90%, or I'm down 80%, or I'm down 50% even. Look, we're all down. But at the end of the day, the good news is that we're actually one step closer to where this needs to be. And as we get closer and closer to where it's going, it's only going to benefit the people who stay the course, who grow alongside it, who are able to get to where it's going when it gets there. And it's like, you hear it all the time, the stupid things that you see come out about the stock market, right? You recall ever seeing those reports, if you were out of the market for even a week, and the difference in return, that things come out, about how, the crash of 2006, 7, 8, you saw the crash in the early 2000s, you've seen the crashes in the 80s. You go through all these and people are like, well, if I bought at the bottom of the crash and I got out at the peak and they're trying to time stuff. And if you thought back in the 80s or the mid 90s or late 2000s when it all crashed, or early 2000s when it all crashed again, and then again the late 2000s, if you tried to figure out like, oh shoot, stocks are dead, everything's dying, go ask somebody who has had their money in there for 25 years and say, how has it worked out for you? And even when it was dead, and you saw B of A, Bank of America, down to $1 a share. People that were back then going, oh my God, banks are dead. Look at all these, these loans, these HELOCs, and all this stuff they did. And smart money was looking to buy because they were thinking, blood's in the water, right? Blood's in the water right now. market volume still hasn't come back. People are like, oh, look, it's up 10%. Yeah, it's up 10%, but how real is that 10%? It's very manipulated right now, and people need to understand that. And the good news is this is going to weed out a lot of the manipulation, as I say.
Easy for you to say.
All right, well, moving to my next question, I want to ask Eric, how does the order book or the Pye book work with tokens that have taxes on them? So let's just say, big token comes out, it's trending on CMC, we pick it up on Pye book. How do the tax tokens work on the book here?
Well, right now, and that's something that we're addressing, but the possibility is there because it is a decentralized order book, and basically what we're doing is we're building a system that handles the transfer of those tokens. That transfer of the tokens still has rules to follow, from the tokenomics of that token. So our order book doesn't have to interfere with the tokenomics of each token as they're transferred because it's a peer-to-peer system. We're not in the middle of it. We're not a centralized location that's holding these tokens and divvying them out, or holding markers for the tokens like large centralized exchanges do. These are real tokens that are moving from one person to another. So the tokenomics of those tokens, at this point, will follow those tokens from the transfer.
Well, and I would like to maybe point this out to people because back to his OpenSea comment, not saying we're building it to be exactly like how OpenSea handles, because again, those are peer-to-peer buys and sells.
It's just a sample. Yeah.
It's a sample, but it's buys and sells like you would see on OpenSea, right? But keep in mind, OpenSea has chosen to allow for tokenomics, or in this case, royalties in the NFT space, right? It's the same concept, and they're built in almost equally the same. But then you go into Blur and you go into some of these other, different NFT marketplaces, and they don't support the royalty side, which is very similar to how we're looking at this. Is we obviously would love feedback from the community. We'd love to hear what they have to say. If they think it needs to accommodate the tokenomics, or if they think that, hey, maybe this is like a centralized exchange would actually take place, and tokenomics aren't necessarily going to be essentially memorialized either. So there's two different kind of looking at what's the feedback, and again, we'll do what's best for the platform, but a little feedback never hurts.
Good deal.
Always helps.
Awesome. I will say I got one more question on the Pye book itself. I'm hoping I can get an example of how the 40% donations from the DEX order book transactions flow back to the holders. Is this going to be kind of the same thing that we've always done, where it's a monthly donation out to all those staked? How is it collected on the book?
At first, because of the volume, obviously, we are going to push a really nice launch. We're going to do our best to get as many people engaged into the platform as possible when it starts. But then again, it really is dependent upon the volume. If the volume is there and it makes sense to be doing this weekly or daily or anything like that, we will do it daily.
Yeah, our goal is always to automate as much as possible.
We don't really have any interest in waiting 30 days, but the only reason it makes sense to wait 30 days is because, again, it's
let the volume
and
collect.
there's fees. We've got to put the funds in there and to move the funds. If we're only moving this bit of money and we're moving it and paying gas and getting it into the pool and all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't make sense to do it every day. It might make sense right away if there's volume. So it really comes down to the volume. If volume's there, we'll automate it so it's happening multiple times a day, and it's updating in real time.
Awesome. And I want to go back a second. I got some audience members talking about liquidity pools versus the DEX book. I just want to kind of rephrase what Bill had said, talking about there will be a Swap 2.0 liquidity pool for people to sell Pye. Is that correct?
I said that our intention is to put liquidity in 2.0 at some point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and once we get this order book out, we get some things moving, our goal is once we are pretty safe in terms of what we believe leverage we need for the blockchain is, whatever we can at that time, we'll be kind of bringing that back at that point.
Good deal. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
clarifying that for everybody. Now, I want to ask as well. I think you kind of touched on it, but one of the questions that came through over the week was, kind of going back to the DOJ about their bust and their arrest on that Russian owner of Blitz Lotto. Their concern, the question is, with Pye being a DEX. And,
Yeah, I almost brought this up earlier.
So, yeah, they want the answer to that. They don't want to be a part of something nefarious or funding nefarious activities on the DEX book. What is your
Are we
guys'
talking about the order book, or are we talking about Pye Swap?
I guess we're talking a little bit about both, but let's talk about the Pye Pay most importantly, because I think that's where that nefarious acts could come from.
And being completely transparent, that is always going to be the first and foremost concern or consideration of ours is to make sure that there isn't a opportunity for, if it's DOJ or if it's SEC or if it's somebody FBI or whoever that is going to be looking into a platform that we've released. Even if it's decentralized, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we're headless, if you want to call it headless, great, but at the same time, it still has a deployment, so to speak, that takes place. So we certainly don't want to be harboring or fostering any sort of illicit activities or people that are money laundering or doing things that are funding the wrong things, or terrorist organizations utilizing our platforms, because obviously crypto seems to be the way that some of these organizations have seen ways to be able to move funds or move money. So our goal there obviously is to ensure that it's not a know your customer situation as much as it is just really making sure that there is some systems and checks in place that are decentralized. They're not centralized by us, but we can at least set them in place when we deploy, so that there's some checks and balances there, and ensuring that if anyone were to knock on the door and want to know more about why or how this platform works, or if it's potentially been linked to somebody that's now in trouble, and that's usually how these platforms get in trouble, is if they, the DOJ must have had a organization that they took down, that they were able to track back a bunch of transactions that took place on that platform, and that's usually why. But that most recent one, Eric, you might be able to talk a little bit about it too, but that most recent one, there was some really interesting things that were happening, and
yeah, if you read the articles on it, I mean, this Blitz Lotto seems to have knowledge of illicit activities and supporting those illicit activities. Now, that's just what's asserted out there and what people are talking about, and in the complaint, from the DOJ itself. So, I mean,
well, listen,
innocent until proven guilty, my friend.
We get reach outs all the time from people saying, "Hey, is there any way you can help me?" And absolutely not, absolutely no interest whatsoever. I mean, people are, "Hey, is there any way I could swap $1 million into USD?"
No, we want to build platforms for the people.
Yeah, this is a mainstream thing. We're not interested in focusing on it, and a lot of times those platforms get in trouble because there's some sort of engagement. And again, back to my point, it was most likely an organization that probably reached out to Blitz Lotto and explained to them what they wanted to do. And Blitz Lotto, as opposed to doing their due diligence to make sure that, hey, if we're going to foster whatever the needs are of this person, and we're going to actually execute on our platform something that allows these people to participate with what we've offered, they should have, at that time, it was unreasonable to think that they didn't know what was happening. Right. And that's why you end up getting the DOJ knocking on your door. But we have no interest in engaging with anybody. Our platform is built for you to use it as is, and if it's not something that is going to work for you, then it's not going to work for you. But we won't knowingly have knowledge of anybody that's using our platforms for anything wrong or anything illicit.
We won't support that.
No, no.
Good answer. I like it. I do want to follow up one more time to go back on the Pye book. When we talked about that 40% donation, that 40% donation is still coming from the transaction fee that is collected by the devs or DT6, so to say, correct? Is that going to be the same fee on that book as well?
Platform fees.
Platform
right. So
fees.
any platform.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I mean, for example, let's say it's an onboard, offboard fee. Obviously, we're not charging, or we don't plan to charge. Just so you guys know, I know a lot of people get excited when they hear sex and central.
Oh, I just got really excited, Bill.
I didn't mean it that
goodness.
way. You know what I meant. They get excited when you hear, centralized exchanges charge 5% of a transaction. I mean, it's insanity, right?
Yeah.
So no, we will be uber competitive so that it feels a lot like a decentralized exchange. But at the same time, those fees are the fees that we're referencing. Any fees for onboard, offboard, any fees for any of the transactions or anything that's happening within the platform.
Fees.
Back to PySwap, same concept. Back to the lab, any of the things that we've put out platform-wise that collects a fee, those are the fees that we're referencing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And our whole goal is to, create these platforms, and for the community and to benefit the community.
Right.
Awesome. Cool. That answers that. Just wanted to follow up on that. I see another question coming in from the audience asking for any update on the Pye chain allocation figures. I know you guys said that you're kind of fighting back and forth. You guys still fighting? What are we thinking?
If I'm being brutally honest with you, which I absolutely want to always be transparent, truth be told, Eric and I have yet to reconvene on the numbers, but it's something that, because we're so focused on, he's doing data pixel, I'm working with concepts.
But there's also it goes deeper. It's not an easy thing to throw out there.
Understood.
There are a lot of moving parts. What is the maximum supply? How long is it going to take to reach that maximum supply?
Right.
How do we actually take 10% of the maximum supply, and generate that? What does that look like? So, I mean, there are a lot of unanswered questions that we're working through.
Yeah, and I'm always fighting because I want it to be more marketing centric, for us to be able to go out there and just blow the thing up and, get a huge audience and drive a large number of holders quickly. Whereas he's a little bit more like, kind of hold it all and make sure that
He's a hoarder.
He is, but at
Maybe
the same,
a little bit around the edges.
Yeah, a little bit around the edges.
I think it's more control freak.
Yeah, he wants to make sure that it's got the limits, right? There's limitations there, and for me, I agree with the limits, but at the same time, I know crypto mainstream. You don't go crypto mainstream unless you're willing to actually go out there and spread it far and wide, and that's going to be one of the biggest things I'm fighting for and constantly going to fight for. But then again, with deference to the 10% that is going to go to our holders, that is first and foremost in my mind. And then obviously I layer up on top of that ways that we can go far and wide, get the masses, bring them in, drive the development, drive the people in the usage, and really the engagement in the actual native coin once it's live.
Gotcha. So as you guys kind of work through that, is there any expected ETA? Because I did say, team did say, maybe we'd see these allocations in the beginning of January. I was wrong. I stand corrected.
No, you weren't wrong.
I'm not wrong, but
it's just it's Eric and I are going
little premature from my side, maybe.
No, you got that probably from us, and the truth be told, is that we absolutely intend to get it out as quickly as possible.
100%.
Right?
100%.
But we also don't want to prematurely say something and then
have to change
2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, we didn't do the diligence to make sure that those numbers were exactly the way we want them.
Yep.
And then we switch it again, or we change it again, and we continuously change it. We want to set it and forget it and keep going and deploying this thing as quickly as possible. So we will absolutely promise that you will hear something as soon as possible. I could say, give us 2 days and we'll get it all figured out and we'll give you a number. Will I be 100% confident that that number won't change or can't change? Probably not, because we're in that part of the building phase that some of those things, we do a lot of research, and I know research sometimes, history isn't always repetitive. People say that, just look at the history. And I say it a lot too. I mean, look at history. Data will be your best friend. But in the end, sometimes when you're dealing with something unique as crypto, You can't just go mimic what somebody else did 2 years ago or launched Ethereum back, in the mid-teens. You can't do that. You got to go and you got to see what is today, what is relevant, what is it
What's
that
tomorrow?
we're seeing in terms of the actual engagement of those blockchains. What is becoming fostering of adoption, right? And that's going to be the real important thing. The best part is a lot of people have done it before us, right? So we got a huge treasure trove of stuff to actually kind of look at, the do's and don'ts. What have they done? What went right for Solana?
right.
What didn't go right for Solana? We already know what didn't go right for Solana. What went right for
Multiple
Avalanche
times.
and what didn't go right for Avalanche? Like you start diving into these, and there's a lot of little ones. There's a lot of little ones people don't even never heard of before. That quite frankly, there's some really cool ones. The problem is, and this is the thing we will not do, and I want people to understand this very clearly, there's a lot of really good blockchains that have launched. And a lot of people are like, yeah, there's no guarantee it'll go anywhere. You're right. And the reason those don't go anywhere is because they ran them no different than someone runs an ICO, or they run them like, hey, we're just going to go out there and we're going to get people involved and people get excited. And unfortunately, those always have failed. And the reason they fail is because there's not enough people supporting, right? Think of our project. Think of the Pye project. We dropped PySwap. PySwap was great when it first came out, right? We got some traction, we got momentum. Remember this?
Well, I wasn't here.
Yeah,
I joined late.
You were still putting on your diaper. But at the same time, right, it was growing. And there was people there. And there was people that were trading. The volume was there. There was stuff going on. Then all of a sudden, obviously, we got momentum. We got hacked. Not something we need to talk about. But if you start to think about it, the ecosystem or the blockchain itself will only be as powerful of how many people engage with it, right? So at the time, if you only got 3, 4, 5,000 people engaging, how much are they going to actually trade back and forth before volume starts dipping?
Right.
Before it starts to really just slowly just kind of dwindle, right? Because they've done their trading and they're playing around or whatever they're doing. We need the masses. And those blockchains are awesome, but they only got like 12,000 holders, 10,000 holders. The problem with that is that's going to, it's, unless it's growing and holders are growing and you're seeing more engagement, again, engagement equals adoption, right? So equally as much engagement as holders actually equals how many developers are interested in furthering the development and the adoption of engaging with the token, or not, in this case, what will be PyCoin, right? So as we go forward, I just want people to understand, I'm not looking to launch this with, 2,000-3,000 holders and we're gonna have nodes and we're gonna, kind of grow from there. I'm looking to launch this with hundreds of thousands of holders.
Millions.
Hundreds of thousands of holders. And so when him and I are fighting, we're not fighting, we're
Discussing.
Debating.
we're
Strategizing.
strategizing. There, yeah, we'll go with that. When we're strategizing how this is going to play out, it's with all these pieces in mind. Like I said, there's some awesome. They're ranked top 500, or they're ranked top 700, 800, whatever, in terms of market cap, and they failed on getting the world to touch and engage and be a part of it. And so when I say that initial, it's like phase 1 is the initial with our holders. Those of you that are sitting there right now going, well, what does this mean? He's talking to hundreds of thousands of people. Yes. But you get to come to the party early.
I like that.
You get to come to the pre-party.
That's
right? So you get to come hang out, be a part of it, and get there and almost be able, like, in place, set, ready to go before we open the doors. Look at it that way. So you're kind of like, it's kind of like a private invite, right? You get to get like the head VIP treatment kind of thing, and then we're going to open the doors, and the doors are going to blow wide open. And our plan to go to market with PyChain is pretty much tried and true for all Solanas and Avalanches. Harmony didn't do it as much as I thought they did. I went back and did some research on how they were launched and what they'd done. But some of these chains did a really good job, and they learned the trick isn't to go do an ICO and go, raise money and do all that. The trick is mass adoption, right? The trick is headless mass adoption, and that, my friends, is what we're doing.
Let's go, baby. Woo! Send tingles down my spine, Bill. I got 2 more questions for you coming at you. And if you're in the chat, if you're in YouTube chatter, if you're in Telegram, and you got any questions for Bill, Eric, or myself, I don't ever get any questions.
Or Travis.
Or Travis. I got Travis the man here as well. But you can drop him into Telegram or YouTube. But one of the questions, it's not really a question, it's more, it's a question. One of our holders is wondering if you guys would consider or could consider making a conversion for anyone that bought after LP was pulled to get it at that price versus before. Does that make sense? Does that question make sense? A different conversion, I guess, for for the Pye tokens themselves.
Right.
I don't know. Talking about seeing people getting more Pye for less after LP being pulled. Would we consider different conversion ratios for those people?
Let's take that to the team and
I think we should
and work through
probably.
it.
Well, and if someone has a suggestion, keep in mind we're all in this together, right? So a lot of times people wait for us to figure it out, and a lot of people have already figured it out. So if someone's got a ratio, a suggestion, hey, here's what we saw, this is what's happened, and we would like to see if this is possible. Suggest it to us.
Yeah.
Tell us what you see,
Come with
what
the
you
solution.
believe. Give us a suggestion of what you think it should be. And then what we do is we obviously go back and make sure that it's fair. It's fair to everybody. It's fair to everybody that's been involved from day one. So we want to make sure that, we can go on a witch hunt trying to figure it all out and, a mission to make sure it all plays out correctly, which we do when nobody's made any suggestion about it otherwise. But if you have something, see something, think something, give it to us. Don't wait until we come out with something and then you go, well, wait a minute.
Well, hold it.
It should have been this.
Yeah.
And because if there is genuinely a rational reason that makes sense, we want to accommodate. We're here to work on this together.
That's right.
Awesome. Guys, my next question I have up here, what is the outlook for the future of the Pye token and the Cherry token?
That's a great question. Again, strategy sessions between Eric and I. Cherry token is something obviously that's going to convert into Pye chain. What happens to Cherry token after the conversion is something that we're
Strategizing
deep in
about.
discussion about. We may attach it to a specific platform, which is something that he and I truly agree on, which is not always the case. But we definitely do agree on this. I think a platform, which we won't say which platform quite yet, but we do believe that it very well could become the big driving, kind of like, driving force inside that platform on the BNB chain and on the ETH chain. When it comes to the Pye chain, though, it's all going to be Pye coin.
Awesome. Guys, that's realistically everything I got for you today. I'll give a couple minutes to anybody in the Telegram or YouTube chat there with any questions that you want to submit to the team while you can see their bright pearly whites. Eric, Bill, you got anything? What? Don't give him that look. Anyway, anything you guys want to leave off?
He was checking to see if I have white teeth.
I was, and he had his lips like clamped down.
There we go. Awesome. Anything you want to leave off with for the holders out there?
No, I mean we are in the middle of multiple projects, and that's something that I truly enjoy. Accomplishing, getting things done, and making great platforms. So, where the team is moving along really well, and just looking forward to launching both those.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him on that. I think a lot of people, when they don't see us every day or they don't hear from us quite often, they wonder what is happening, how are things going, things like that.
We're not just sitting on our hands.
But the good news is this has given us a real opportunity to diagnose the market as it moves forward, especially in the times that we're in. it's opening up a lot of light on a lot of different areas of the market and blockchain and technology and things that are happening right now. So we're doing what we can, and always gonna do this is because we always want to be relevant. We always want to stay ahead of it. So we are going to use this time to develop as quickly as we possibly can. But what we're seeing with the market is absolutely a beautiful thing, because it's again, like I said before earlier in the conversation, we're growing into a next phase, and that's something that where we're at now, the amount of time we're putting into these things, what we're seeing in terms of the feedback to the groups that we do talk to, it's really exciting. It's making me feel very confident in 2023, because a lot of what we saw in 2022 felt like it was slapping us in the face, or it was coming from right or left and coming out of nowhere. And here we are, and I feel like we're so much more in control of what's next.
Let's go.
And I feel like being able to get to where we need to get to is open roads ahead, whereas before it was this roadblock, that roadblock. I mean, it felt like we were running into walls every which way we turned. So it's clear skies ahead and clear roads ahead, and we'll just keep driving, my friend.
Let's go, baby. I see G Family down in the YouTube chat asking who to contact for some help with his tokens. G Fam, you can reach out to me in Telegram, DM me, shoot me a chat. You can hit me up there, and I will take care of you. Make sure you get your tokens all sorted out. And then I got AC over in Telegram asking, when is the Pye chain launching, and are we migrating? I can answer the second one and say, no, there is no migration of Pye token to Pye chain.
No, there's an allocation.
There's an allocation, so you can claim Pye coin for your Pye token. And Pye chain, are we still looking at Q4 of this year?
That's the
Is
plan.
that accurate for right now?
We'll keep everyone updated as we move forward, but it is,
Certainly the plan.
certainly the plan. That's what we're targeting.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and say we don't see anything changing now. We could sit here and say we don't anticipate anything's going to get in the way. But if 2022 was any good way of looking at how things can play out, but our target is still Q4.
Yeah. And what we will, do is make sure that we keep the community up to speed on progress. And if anything changes, we'll let you know.
Well, and if we decide to talk a little bit more about the order book concept in 2 weeks, we will.
Absolutely.
And that actually plays right into stuff around the Pye chain. So we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
If Eric and I can come to a conclusion.
We can do it.
Good deal. I believe in you both. DT6, baby. Building today and tomorrow
every
and
day.
for the future to come,
Every
baby.
day.
So
Every day.
thank you both for taking the time to join us on the live stream. Feedback, do we like the studio? Like,
I know, it looks
Yeah,
great.
take a look.
I have to tell you that I do prefer this setup versus the couch with the little itty bitty chairs.
I
and
like
no
this.
arms.
You see the background and everything? Like, the background's nice and good. Like,
Yeah,
y'all
the
look
couch.
clean.
A couch makes me feel lazy because you're just sitting there and you're like sunk in. I gotta hold a pillow, or the pillow, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And over there, when you're sitting in the chairs, you got no place to do anything with your arms. Now here, you can lean on the table. There, you're stuck
And
here.
you know what's even
you're stuck
great about
here.
this one is I can
You
raise.
mine's all the way at the bottom,
I
and
can
yours
raise
is all the
it
way at
so
the
we're
top.
like same height.
Absolutely,
See that?
I do.
Isn't that cool?
This is the way it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
G tried to put me on the floor
Did he?
earlier.
What?
Yeah, I see how it is.
Did you take him down?
No.
Take them down a notch, sir.
No. Just have to look for some Pye tokens in here.
Good deal. Well, thank you guys
All
so
right.
much. Huge shout out to Travis putting all this up.
Thanks, Travis.
Ciao, Travis.
Guys, we will catch you very soon here for another bi-weekly AMA, and we do have a Friday forum coming soon.
We do.
So be on the lookout. That'll be in Telegram, but maybe we live stream it too. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you on the flip.
Thanks, everyone.